One thing we also talk a lot about in chemistry is the temperature. Not only do we want to know the temperature something is because it's a measure of energy, but also because we know that certain constants or certain measurements are only valid at a certain temperature. In this course, we will look at 3 different temperature scales: Kelvin, Celsius, and Fahrenheit. Note that for Kelvin, we show a temperature at 273 Kelvin, which is equivalent to 0 degrees Celsius and 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the freezing point of water. The boiling point of water is 373 Kelvin, 100 degrees Celsius, or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. The difference between these two values for Kelvin and Celsius is 100. This makes converting from one to the other fairly easy. However, for Fahrenheit, the difference is 180. So there's a formula, albeit a little more complicated, but there is a formula that will allow us to convert between Fahrenheit and Celsius. Another thing to note about Kelvin is that 0 Kelvin is absolute zero. There is no negative Kelvin. It's always a positive value. The other value to look at is normal body temperature: 310 Kelvin, 37 degrees Celsius, and 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. If someone were to tell you it's 60 degrees Fahrenheit outside, you'd have a pretty good idea of how that felt. If, on the other hand, someone told you it was 22 degrees Celsius outside, it's a little bit harder to know that because we're not used to that scale. However, using normal body temperature as a reference point, we can have a decent idea of what that temperature would feel like. Now we see the 2 formulas that we can use to convert between these temperature scales. We have the conversion from Kelvin to Celsius or vice versa, and the relationship between degrees Celsius and degrees Fahrenheit. On the next slide, we'll look at an example of how we can convert temperatures from one unit to the other. Room temperature was measured and found to be 68 degrees Fahrenheit. What is the equivalent temperature in degrees Celsius and in Kelvin? So the first thing I'm going to look at is my formula relating degree Celsius and degree Fahrenheit. And I'm going to take my given value and plug that in. So I have degree Celsius equals 68 minus 32 divided by 1.8. And when I solve that, I end up with degree Celsius equals 20 degrees Celsius. Now I can take that value, plug it into the formula that relates Kelvin and Celsius, and take 20 plus 273 and get Kelvin equal to 293 Kelvin. Note that when we write temperatures in Celsius or Fahrenheit, we always use the degree Celsius or the degree Fahrenheit, but Kelvin is just Kelvin. There are no degrees Kelvin.